Every single morning, your joints are sending you a message. But most people ignore it. That tightness you feel when you get out of bed, the stiffness in your hips when you sit too long, the cracking in your knees when you stand up. These are not random signs of aging. They're early warnings, signals that your fascia, the soft connective network that holds your entire body together, is drying out, tightening, and losing elasticity. And according to Harvard Medical School, this loss of joint fluidity is one of the earliest and strongest predictors of biological aging. But what if I told you there's an ancient 5-minute ritual that monks, martial artists, and physicians in the East have used for more than 1,000 years to reverse stiffness, remove inflammation, and restore youthfulness to the body, and that modern fascia research is now proving exactly why it works. This ritual is known as joint coating. It's a sequence of slow, precise movements that send repair signals deep inside your joints, rehydrating your fascia and rebooting your body's natural anti-inflammatory response. If you deal with stiffness, joint pain, tight hips, clicking knees, or if you simply want to move like you're 20 years younger, 5-minute ritual unlocks your body's ability to self-repair. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to do it. But first, you need to understand why your joints are aging faster than the rest of your body. Here's something scientists at the University of Tübingen discovered recently. After the age of 25, your fascia, the connective tissue surrounding your muscles and joints, begins to lose hydration at a rate of about 1% every single year. By 45, your fascia can be up to 25% drier than it was in your youth, and dry fascia behaves exactly like dry leather. It cracks, it tightens, it pulls everything inward. This is why your posture collapses over time, why your spine compresses, and why your range of motion quietly shrinks year after year without you ever noticing the exact moment it happened. Now here's the part that surprises most people. Research has also found that nearly all joint pain, stiffness, and mobility loss isn't actually caused by the joints themselves. It's caused by stagnant fascia tissue that has stopped moving, stopped hydrating, and started compressing nerves, restricting blood flow, and preventing inflammation from draining the way it should. This single fact explains something a lot of people have experienced but never understood: why stretching alone doesn't fix stiffness. Why strength training doesn't fix stiffness. Why even years of consistent yoga practice doesn't fully fix stiffness. Because unless you specifically activate the fascia network itself, not just the muscle, not just the joint, nothing fundamentally changes underneath the surface. Think about how strange that is. We've been taught for decades that mobility problems are a muscle problem or a joint problem, something to be solved with more stretching, more strengthening, more targeted exercise. But if the actual bottleneck is a dehydrated, compressed layer of connective tissue wrapped around everything, then all that effort is working around the real issue instead of addressing it directly. It's like polishing the outside of a rusted hinge and wondering why it still won't swing freely. The fix was never on the surface. It was in the mechanism underneath. And this is exactly what the ancient joint coating ritual was designed to do. In 2022, a team of fascia researchers made a discovery that is reshaping how we understand aging. They found that when you perform micro-movements, slow, circular, intention-driven motions around the joints, your fascia behaves like a living sponge. With each controlled movement, it pulls hydration into the tissue, increases synovial joint fluid, and signals your fascia's repair cells to begin rebuilding collagen. In simpler terms, micro-movements tell your joints to repair themselves. This is why the people of Okinawa, home to one of the longest living populations on Earth, maintain youthful mobility well into their 90s. They perform subtle joint coating rituals every single morning, often without even framing it as exercise. It's simply part of how the day begins. Tai Chi masters show the same pattern. Monks in the Himalayas practicing longevity arts show the same pattern. Modern biomechanics is now validating something remarkable. These rituals don't just reduce stiffness in the moment. They appear to reverse biological age markers connected to mobility, inflammation, and fascia health more broadly. A study from Stanford University showed that just 5 minutes of daily fascia activation improved joint fluidity by 30% in 2 weeks. Another study documented a 25% drop in inflammatory markers after just 12 days of controlled micromovement practice. The ancients didn't know the biochemical terminology. They didn't have the words fibroblast or synovial fluid, but they understood the underlying Principle with total clarity. Motion restores youth. Stillness accelerates decay. Now let's go back to where this practice actually began. More than 1200 years ago, in the mountains of Sichuan, Taoist physicians noticed a strange and consistent pattern among the monks in their communities. The monks who lived the longest weren't necessarily the ones who meditated the most. They weren't the ones with the strictest diets. They weren't even the ones who trained hardest in martial arts. The monks with the highest longevity were the ones who performed one small, unusual ritual every single morning, before they spoke to anyone, before they ate, before the day officially began. They called it the 5 gates, 5 circular movements, 5 minutes, 5 joints believed to control the entire flow of energy through the body, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the spine, and the shoulders. When these gates remained open, energy flowed freely, inflammation drained properly, and movement felt effortless. When the gates closed, aging accelerated. The monks believed each joint held a kind of code, a specific pattern of micro-movement when performed daily, instructed the body to heal itself from the inside out. Western explorers traveling through this region in the early 1900s documented something striking. Monks in their 80s and 90s moving with a fluidity that resembled teenagers. No visible stiffness. No obvious decline. No signs of joint degeneration that Western observers expected to see in people of that age. Today, fascia scientists refer to this process as the hydration repair cycle. The monks had their own name for it. Centuries earlier, they called it washing the joints with breath. What's worth pausing on here is how the two descriptions actually converge. The monks weren't describing a metaphor when they talked about washing the joints. They were describing, in the only language available to them, a real physiological event. Fluid moving into tissue that had gone dry, circulation returning to areas that had gone stagnant. They just didn't have a microscope to confirm it. They had centuries of careful observation, passed down teacher to student, refined generation after generation until the sequence worked reliably enough that it was worth preserving. And now, you're about to learn the exact 5-minute sequence they practiced every single morning. This is the joint coding ritual. You can do this anywhere. No equipment, no noise. No stretching required. Just slow, circular micro-movements that unlock the body's natural repair blueprint. Each movement takes roughly 1 minute. 1. Ankle spirals. The gate of flow: lift one foot slightly off the ground and draw slow circles with your ankle. 20 circles clockwise, then 20 circles counterclockwise. Switch to the other side and repeat. This activates the pump mechanism that drains inflammation up through the legs and begins rehydrating fascia from the ground up, the foundation of the entire sequence. 2. Knee circles, the gate of stability. Bring your feet together. Place your hands gently on your knees. Draw small, slow circles. Clockwise first, then counterclockwise. This restores synovial fluid around the knee joint and decompresses the joint capsule, which is often where stiffness quietly accumulates without any obvious injury or cause. 3. Hip circles, the gate of youth. Place your hands on your hips. Lift the pelvis slightly and draw slow circles, almost as if you're gently polishing the inside of the hip socket. This particular movement is well known for reversing lower back stiffness and releasing chronic pelvic tension. And pelvic tension, more than most people realize, is one of the leading contributors to premature aging posture. 4. Spinal wave, the gate of vitality. Imagine your spine moving like water. Roll it forward, then backward, in a smooth, continuous wave motion. This decompresses the vertebrae, increases the flow of cerebrospinal fluid, and restores healthy gliding along the nerve pathways that run the length of your spine. 5. Shoulder spirals, the gate of energy. Lift your arms gently and draw small circles with your shoulders, slow, smooth, and fully controlled. This activates lymphatic drainage in the upper body and resets the fascia network responsible for a huge amount of the neck and shoulder stiffness so many people carry without realizing it. 5 minutes. 5 gates. One complete reboot of your fascia hydration cycle. A couple of practical notes as you get started. None of these movements should ever cause sharp pain. A mild sense of warmth or gentle release is normal. Sharp pain is not, and if you feel it, Ease off the range of motion rather than pushing through. You don't need to rush the circles. Slow and controlled will always outperform fast and sloppy here, because the entire mechanism depends on giving the fascia time to actually respond to the movement, not just going through the motion for its own sake. And you don't need every gait to feel perfect on day one. Some joints will open up faster than others depending on where you personally hold the most tension. For many people, that's the hips. For others, it's the shoulders. Consistency across all 5 gaits matters more than mastering any single one early on. Here's where it gets interesting. When you perform this ritual daily, your body adapts quickly, and the timeline is fairly predictable. Day 1. You'll feel lighter almost immediately. Your joints feel oiled, as if something inside them is finally switched back on after being dormant. Week 1. Morning stiffness drops noticeably. You start waking up without that heavy, compressed feeling in your hips and lower back that used to greet you the moment you sat up. Week 2. Inflammation begins visibly draining. Movement throughout the day feels smoother. Your posture starts correcting itself without any conscious effort on your part. It simply becomes easier to stand and sit the way your body was originally designed to. By day 30, your range of motion feels noticeably younger. Your gait is lighter. Your hips feel open instead of locked. Your spine feels free instead of compressed. Your knees stop clicking with every step. Your joints, in a word, feel alive again. Many people who commit to this ritual report feeling 10 to 20 years younger. Not from any dramatic intervention, but purely from reconnecting with a fascia network that modern, sedentary life has quietly neglected for decades. This ritual works because it restores exactly what your body lost over time: hydration, elasticity, circulation, and energy flow. It isn't magic, it's biology. The monks simply discovered the mechanism first, centuries before anyone had the tools to explain it. There's a broader point worth sitting with here too. So much of what we call aging gets treated as a fixed, one-way process, something that simply happens to you and can only be slowed, never meaningfully addressed. But a hydration cycle is not a one-way process. Tissue that has dried out can, within limits, be rehydrated. Fascia that has stiffened can, with the right consistent input, regain some of its glide. That doesn't mean 5 minutes a day rewinds the clock entirely, but it does mean the stiffness so many people quietly accept as inevitable is, at least in part, a maintenance problem rather than a permanent sentence. And maintenance problems respond to consistent, correct input. I want you to commit to 5 minutes a day. Just 5. For the next 30 days. Comment day 1 below to join the joint coating challenge. Public commitment has been shown to increase follow-through by over 60%, and thousands of people have already begun transforming their mobility, posture, and daily energy through these ancient movements, now backed by modern science. Here's the core idea I want you to leave with. Your body isn't stiff because you're aging. Your body is stiff because it's dehydrated, compressed, and quietly waiting for you to activate the system that was designed, all along, to repair it. Start today. 5 minutes, 5 gaits, and your joints will remember what youth actually feels like. I'll see you tomorrow, where I reveal the ancient standing breath that supercharges this ritual and unlocks even deeper regeneration. Your youth is not gone. It's simply waiting to be reactivated. Start your joint coating ritual tonight. One last thought before you go. You don't need a gym membership, a class schedule, or any special equipment to begin this. You need a floor to stand on, and 5 minutes you were probably going to spend scrolling anyway. The monks who preserved this practice for over 1,000 years didn't have access to modern research, modern imaging, or modern recovery tools. And yet, what they built by observation alone still holds up under all of it today. That's a rare thing. Most ancient health practices get quietly disproven as science advances. This one keeps getting confirmed. That alone should